Chase Young is a 49er. What do you think? A lot of people want to weigh in. Let's play the feud. Let's go to Matt in San Rafael. Hey, Matt, you're on with Willie and Dibby. What's up?
Hey, guys. So I think it was a good signing. I was a little bummed that they had to go D-line because going into the season, I thought, as I think we all did, that was going to be a strength of the team. I'm a little disappointed, as you touched on and Dibs did as well. The run defense has been really substandard. I think that Hargrave has not played the way I expected him to. He wasn't really going to be a run defender. But the fact of the matter is, I see guys getting too far upfield and backs finding lanes. I see quarterbacks sliding through these lanes. I think it's what they had to do. I'm really kind of concerned about Oliver nonetheless. I read a stat that the last 20 passes against him have been completed, which is not what you want out of a nickel corner. The thing I also wanted to touch on is, you guys were talking about Debo. I think that the offense has suffered as a result of the defense being what it is. I think they draw up that emotion, but I also think that losing Debo was a huge blow. I think their offense has looked stagnant and somewhat predictable. I think that Purdy looks to Debo in different kinds of ways, and I think that Kyle has coached kind of scared offensively the last few games, and I don't know why. I'm hoping that the bye is going to give him something. The last thing I'll say is I agree with you, Mark, that the scheme that Wilkes, he's got to fit his scheme to the players and not try to put these square pegs into his round holes. It feels like that's what he's been doing. He's got to change, or they got to get rid of him. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, Matt. A lot in that call, just to sort of first address what he said there at the end, because I think, for a lot of football fans, when we go, oh, it's the scheme. I mean, many of us, it's not like we could sit there and break down exactly what scheme he's going
right
with. I would simplify it by this. This is just in my mind. He's tinkering too much. I think
Steve Wilkes, you're talking about.
I think Steve Wilkes is a long-time good defensive coach in the NFL, and he's got a lot of tricks in his bag. The problem is you don't need as many tricks when you have this many treats, okay?
Look at you work. Look at you.
You don't need that. You don't need to bring tricks to San Francisco. Come on. You've got the players. You've got the matchup advantage almost every time. So you don't need to do all of this stuff to quote-unquote kind of help them out, because I think you've taken them out of their comfort zone. And just let them play. Let them get after it. They're better than who they're going against almost every time.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of just get out of their way and have faith that that's going to work, and then kind of jump in on the back end and support them where holes get created.
It feels like they started the year doing just that. A lot of four-man rush, the occasional five-man rush. It seems like they've gotten away from that a little bit in terms of, bringing extra people. When you look at the blitz rate for the 49ers, they only blitz 20% of the time, which is fourth from last in terms of blitz frequency. Minnesota's number one. The Giants are number two. The Niners are 29th. So they don't blitz a lot in terms of other teams. 20% is all they blitz. It's the other games that I see up front, running stunts, the tackle in the end. The tackle goes out and the end loops around the back. That takes time. It's a slow developing rush play. I think you're right in terms of just get out there and get after it. The one thing this Niner D has done so well for years is pressure with four and then rally up and tackle behind. Even if it's a run play, it's a pass play, that's what they've done so well. But now the four-man rush is having a hard time getting home, and they're missing a lot of tackles. So those things, I don't know if that is necessarily scheme-related. I do see these normally sure tacklers missing a lot more tackles than they normally would.
Matt also points out that this poor play on the defense, in his opinion, he said, is now affecting the offense. I'll agree with that, but I'll also say that goes both ways. It absolutely goes both ways.
And that's what they call complimentary football.
Yeah, exactly. Like the defense is being put in bad positions at times because either the offense can't sustain drives or the offense has had the turnover bug the last few weeks, and that gives the defense a short field, and it's a sudden change. They don't have time to go over things on the sideline or catch their breath. So that totally works both ways. Yes, the offense is lesser because of what the defense is doing, but that's true in the other direction as well, at least in my opinion. All right, next up, let's go to Roy in San Leandro. Hey, Roy, what's cooking?
Hey, Mark, thanks for taking my for my call. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for calling, Roy.
Basically, what concerned me is that guy named Hargrove. He's just a clone of a D Ford. I mean, he's just there. I mean, I haven't seen nothing that he's really done. But what I wanted to say was that, to me, even though Bosa and the rest of the line haven't had these last couple of games, these 3 games, is because they're going up against tough competition also, too. You got to keep that in mind. But at the same time, though, what concerned me is Travarius Ward and that guy named Oliver. I mean, because if you look at that game film, and even Joe Romo picked up on it, he said they played those guys too loose, and everybody already know that Travarius Ward is not good against the run. And so you combine that with good, decent quarterbacks, you're going to get a lot of passes, big yardage, and all of that, and stuff. And then the next thing I just wanted to say was also, too, the 49ers need another good running back, somebody not only that could block, but take the ball from McCaffrey and then pick up maybe around 12 or maybe 8 yards or something when they really need it so they can stay in field goal position.
I don't think it's a bad idea. Roy, thank you. I do still wonder what the hell is going on with Eli Mitchell, although he's not even on the field that much. So I don't know how many opportunities he has to show whether or not he's healthy and looking like the back that a couple of years ago was their lead back and a guy who had some success in this league.
They don't trust him, Mark, because he's healthy and he's playing and they're not putting him out there. And they don't trust Jordan Mason. If you go back 2 or 3 weeks, Jordan Mason was spelling Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey would go out, Jordan Mason would come in and get some carries or at least get snaps. Jordan Mason last game played 0 snaps.
Yep.
So something has happened in terms of him falling out of favor with Bobby Turner, the running back coach, and or Kyle Shanahan, because he went from not getting anything to getting some touches to not getting anything.
Well, that might have been Mitchell getting healthy, but he's not getting much run
He's not getting anything either.
I don't know if it's that they don't trust them as much as they don't trust the whole team when McCaffrey's not on the field. Like they won't take him off the field.
That's semantics, but I guess you're right.
No, I'm saying that even if they did trust him, I think Kyle's just looking at it going, no, I'd rather have Christian. And they are truly running him as a bell cow, which I don't really have that much of a problem with. We just haven't really had a chance to get any flow with the other guys and see if they can spell him. Some of his defensive points that he brought up, Javon Hargrave and D Ford don't even play the same position.
Right.
D Ford is an edge rusher. Hargrave is there to plug the middle. You want to compare him more to players like Kinlaw, DJ Jones before him.
Right.
Those are guys that plug up the middle and stuff the run. And again, this is another one that to me is a head scratcher because he's not just a guy. He's not just somebody who's standing there. This is a guy who produced at an incredible level with the Eagles last year, and the guy who I heard NFL expert after NFL expert say was the signing of the offseason because of the impact he would have and what he would take away from the Eagles. Now they got Carter in the draft. They're still doing okay on the interior there, but he's been a total disappointment. And it doesn't add up to me, Dibs. It just doesn't. It doesn't add up to me that all of these great players just stop producing at the same time.
And I'm just wondering why the middle of the defense against the run has become such a vulnerability, because you look at Javon Hargrave, and I stood next to you during OTAs, and Larry Krueger was there, and we watched him go through his paces, and you and I had the same reaction, which was a little bit of a gasp at the size and the quickness and the speed, the ability to eat space. And it's like he is a perfect defensive tackle, a guy who can take on a double team, because when you're the defensive tackle against the run, a lot of times your job is not to make the tackle. It's to take the center and take the guard and take them out of the play, not let them get off you and get to the second level. So he eats 2 blockers. Fine. He's out of the play. and then here comes Fred Warner or Dre Greenlaw to fill that spot. Pow! 2-yard gain, 1-yard gain, 2-yard loss, whatever. And the run game is neutralized. But what we saw from Joe Mixon was give it to Mixon straight ahead. There's a hole. Pow! 5 yards, 7 yards, 8 yards. We talked about it yesterday. Between 5 and 10 a clip. And it's because they're able to get to the second level. The linebackers aren't clean running to the ball carrier. And I'm not sure if it's scheme, if it's run fit, or if Hargrave is just getting eaten up there.
Don't forget that another Chase Center knockout pass is going to be given out today, 4:30. Okay, 4:30. Make sure you're listening at 4:30 for more details if you want to play knockout at Chase Center. Every day between now and the end of next week, we'll be giving away another slot today. Be listening at 4:30. Let's keep going with you. Brendan in the city. Hey, Brendan, thanks for calling. What's up?
Hey, what's up, Dave? Just happened to catch the end of the change-up, and you guys reporting on the failed trade between the Giants and the Niners.
Yes,
reportedly. Anybody? Yeah. It was from a troll account, so I just wanted to get that out and see if you guys already informed about that. It actually got me.
It's not actually from a troll account, but I have seen plenty of people refute the report, but I haven't seen any of those be anything, like I haven't heard Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter weigh in on this one way or the other. And I mean, at the end of it, Brendan, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The Niners did not get another defensive back.
No, for sure. But regarding the Chase trade, I actually love it because, everybody's talking about how Nick Bosa can't get to the quarterback, get any sacks. But if you do watch him, he's winning a lot of his battles, just can't get home. Meanwhile, you see the opposite edge, and you're basically getting nothing there. And with Chase, I feel like getting 1v1s with Bosa and having Hargrave or Armstead take the double team, it definitely is going to be a massive improvement. Especially should help our secondary more, because no pass rush. Of course, the secondary is going to get picked on. And, I mean, Joe Burrow is just playing out his mind this past Sunday. So I wasn't really too mad about how they're just getting picked apart. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, Brendan, thanks. I see that's one where I totally get it, but I don't agree. I don't see it that way. I'm not going to just give the 49er defense a pass because the Bengals were here and Joe Burrow is on people's fantasy teams. I don't care if he's a good quarterback. So what? That's not the way this 49er defense has ever played. That's not this era of 49er football. Just because the other quarterback is good, you're going to say, sure, 19 straight completions, 31 points in your own building, 28 of 32, absolutely no turnovers whatsoever, not even any turnover-worthy plays. Come on, forget about it. That's not the way this works. I don't care who's quarterbacking. That to me doesn't work. And so I already think this defensive line was talented enough that the way they're playing doesn't make sense. And now that you add this in, this is the most devastating D-line room in football by far, in my opinion. And so if you can't get production out of this group, it has to be a you problem. It has to be a coaching issue. How can it not be? These are some of the best. I think
that's too simple.
I mean, if Young and Bosa aren't getting sacks and they're not pressuring the QB, then how on earth is that, like, just both of them stopped playing well for no reason?
I mean, there's reasons for everything. And, Nick Bosa is a guy who just got a contract and just held out. So is it possible that he is not in the same shape in week 8 or week 9 coming up that he was in last year, where he actually had a training camp? Now, he's already come out and said earlier in the season that he was a little bit behind and he hasn't really found his stride. His very own boss, John Lynch, said camp is important and that John Lynch, Hall of Famer, always needed 3 weeks of camp just to get sharp. Bosa didn't have it. Bosa got paid. It is possible that Nick Bosa is maybe not in the same spot hunger-wise and fitness-wise that he was last year.
I get the hunger part, but fitness-wise, doesn't that only make sense for the first month of the season?
It should.
8 games now.
Right.
Training camp, if he had training camp, that's a month. You don't get 2 months of training camp. Like he should be Nick right now.
He can have a bad year. I mean, it's not as easy as you're Nick Bosa, so you're going to go out there and get 12 to 17 sacks a season just because that's the way it goes.
I don't know. I kind of think it is. When do people who go DPOY just have a bad year where they only go 5 sacks?
Well, he's on pace to have 9,
okay,
or maybe 7.
You know what I mean? Like TJ Watt's not going to have a year off. Myles Garrett's not going to have a year where you just don't register sacks. I'm not saying you got to match last year's production, but this doesn't make sense. It doesn't anymore. Maybe it did for weeks 1, 2, and 3.
But you know
to
how
me, it
sacks
doesn't make
work.
sense anymore.
And if you look, like last year was a DPOY year for a reason. He had a sack in almost every single game. I think there were 2 sacks, and you and I did this in the offseason. We were talking contract. I believe all but 2 games he registered at least 1 sack. But you can have a 2 or 3 sack game, and all of a sudden his numbers will look better.
Sure.
And I don't think that Nick Bosa is having a bad year. He's having, statistically, a down year, but he's been impactful. It's the whole group as a collective that hasn't been great. Javon Hargrave last year had 11 sacks. This year he's got 3. His tackles for loss are down. His QB hits are about on pace, but he has not been the same run stopper. Eric Armstead is starting to play better, but he has struggled at times. And the other defensive end, that's been a big problem. Drake Jackson has lost snaps to Randy Gregory, who came in mid-season and immediately replaced him. Cleveland Ferrell has been good in flashes, but he's been wildly inconsistent. And then if you want to go to Kinlaw, who, my goodness, Kinlaw looked good and all the hype in the preseason about, it's a new Kinlaw this year, and watch out for Kinlaw. He's been a non-factor. I think the group in general has underperformed.
Of course they have.
But I don't necessarily point to the coach and say, well, it's got to be because Steve Wilkes.
But